Our third key differentiation is empathy versus sympathy, or other forms of non-empathy. Sympathy would be one form of non-empathy. So to give you an example of this one, I actually had somebody I was working with just last night. And she had shared with me that, her children are grown. And just last spring, a young woman who about maybe 8, 9 years younger than her oldest daughter contacted the family to say, I'm your half sibling to her children. So she discovered late in life that her husband, who she's long separated from, had another child. She knew that he'd had affairs, but this one, she didn't realize it went that far back, and that he had another child. So, sympathy would look like, oh wow, poor you. I can't even imagine what that would be like. Wow, yeah, that's horrible. That's just really horrible. You must be devastated over that. So, sympathy can sometimes sound similar to empathy, but oftentimes sympathy, rather than the person feeling really heard and understood for their experience, they're getting more of a projection of the listener's discomfort and a bit of a poor you kind of message coming at them. And so again, there's no right or wrong, and sympathy is not as effective a strategy as empathy is for really creating the depth and quality of connection that's possible. There's other forms of non-empathy as well. Advice giving is a very common one. Like, oh, well, you should just call him immediately and let him know how upset you are and what a jerk he was. Right? That might be advice. Or another advice, you should just block this woman from your kids. She has no business being part of your family. That could be advice giving, right? So again, this is like, it's not connecting with the pain of what's happened or the reality of what's happened for this woman. It's jumping to a fix-it very quickly. Another thing that people might do is they go into storytelling, right? Like, oh, that happened to me, or, I had a friend who that happened to, and, and then they say whether or not their friend was devastated or their friend worked through it, or, but storytelling, something that is related, but it's not connecting with that person directly. It's telling a story of my own. Oh, that reminds me of when. So that's also not empathy. Another thing you could do is evaluate or psychoanalyze, right? So you most likely, somebody would psychoanalyze the ex-husband. They would probably not psychoanalyze the person talking, but some people might do that. They might psychoanalyze or evaluate the person talking too. So that might look like, wow, he just sounds like he was a narcissist. I'm so sorry you had to deal with him, right? Or, wow, you were really naive to not know for so long. Ouch, right? So these are the kinds of things. The interesting thing is I actually do these exercises in a workshop where I have people practice giving and receiving these non-empathic kind of responses, and people, they get really uncomfortable. Of course, it's very uncomfortable to say it or to receive it, especially consciously. But then they're also like, whoa, I actually do this a lot. So it's a wake-up call, right? To recognize, like, oh, there's all these ways that I'm responding that aren't actually empathy. Another one would be reassuring, oh, you're going to be fine, you're going to get through this, everything's going to be fine. And reassurance is great. I love reassurance. Reassurance is a great thing. However, reassurance where you haven't connected fully first, it just doesn't land well. It's kind of like a spiritual bypass, right? So those are different examples of what is not empathic receiving, right? Remember I talked about these two ingredients, the honest expression and empathic receiving. This woman had really given an honest expression of what was going on for her. Now, empathy, initially, empathy is just to go, wow, just to take a breath and be present with this woman who was sharing what she'd gone through only a few months ago. Wow. And then it's to say, I would imagine that was shocking. And, maybe disorienting, disheartening. I would imagine it might have stirred up some pain of the past. Sounds like, there was really a loss of trust before. And that loss of trust is just right in the forefront again with this new experience. Right? And then pause and see, how is that other person responding? Are they nodding their head? Are they saying, yeah, that's going on for me? Maybe they're adding to it. Wow, she's listening. Let me say more. Or maybe she's saying, yeah, no, that's not quite it. Right? In which case you listen, oh, thank you for letting me know. Can you share more so I can really understand you? Right? So that's the process of empathy. Again, it's to seek to really step into the other person's world, to be fully of service to them, in that your commitment is to really hearing them, seeing them, understanding them, and showing them care for whatever it is they've gone through. So that's this distinction between empathy and non-empathy. Now, again, there's a lot of exercises that you can do to really deepen the experience of this one. My favorite one is really in a workshop setting where you practice with each other giving non-empathic responses, right? Practice giving advice or evaluating or storytelling. Do that on purpose with each other, just so that you can feel that, right? So one person shares like, this is really painful for me. And then the other person responds with advice, evaluation, storytelling, right, fixing, something like that. Just so that you can feel like, ugh, I don't really want that. And some of it you'll be like, the advice was okay, right? But then you take the opportunity and you practice this empathy. Practice looking at what feelings do I imagine that person was going through? What needs do I imagine was alive for them? The easiest way to practice receiving and responding with empathy, to build that muscle, to move towards being a giraffe, is to start by leaning on the words lists or cards. So you can download these words lists. You can download universal needs. You can download emotions. There's the emotions connected to unmet needs, the emotions connected to met needs. These, again, are available on my website, www.lovesmartcards.com. And they're also available on the cnvc.org website. Right? So you can listen to somebody who's sharing something with, honestly, openly. They're sharing what's going on for them. And practice guessing. What might they be feeling? What might they be longing for? Those questions are also in the card set. So there's question cards in this card set. You can look at what am I feeling and longing for. You can also look at what the other person might be feeling. Oh, another gray card. There we go. What the other person might be feeling, what they might be longing for. And you can flip through cards in order to identify what somebody might be longing for and what they might be what they might be feeling. Right. So those are two great ways to be able to practice the empathy aspect of this key differentiation and of this distinction in nonviolent communication.